A couple things I want to talk about this week, you know. It's been an interesting week so far. Of course, if they had their way, Valerie Jarrett would have been boasting of my death Wednesday night, and they would have had the funeral on Friday. But their little psyop failed against me, and, you know, it's not the first, won't be the last, but it was Obama's parting gift to me and went nowhere, and so, you know, I don't know how many times they've sent their assassins against me, and they just turn tail and whimper back out of town. But that's just the way it's going to be. You know, that's the way it always is, and I don't know how many countless times I've had to deal with special ops groups coming against me or loading up their UFOs to come against me. I lost one in a lake full of special ops soldiers. You know, I'm very protected by the Most High, and there's a reason for that. Because He stood me up on this earth to speak to the nations. And I'll go home when He calls me home. Which, you know, I would just soon be very soon. You know, I was talking to Dad earlier today, and I put out a video today. I put out quite a few lately. Let's see. It wasn't my idea. Let's see. January, what is this week? This week I put out Lilith in conversation with the ancient evil goddess, Disclosure. It was conversations I had with Lilith, and I put that in video format and put it out. And Angel Wars, Fight Against the New World Order, and Angels in the Flesh. I narrated that one today. I took my former videos down off of that because it was divided into 4 different parts. And so I put it all on one video, and I updated that one and uploaded it. So, just a lot. A lot of ones out there. You know, folks, people think I want this info out. I don't. I like working in the background. I would prefer just do my thing. But you know what? Truth is from the Father, and when truth is revealed, it's not to be hidden. And so He has me disclose all this stuff. And how people take it is up to them. You know, I know there's going to be a lot of hating. There already is. Some of you and all your hate will come under direct judgment of the Most High God. He's not going to play around with this anymore. Because I just deal with too much on this earth to where I just can't even take it anymore, physically, health-wise, mentally. I just want to do my work with the support of the few that I get, instead of dealing with the hate from the millions. The demons just come out in full force and hate against out of people. I think I want to listen to their rat traps all day. No, I don't. Ask the witches about my patience running out. You know, the Father always has my back. And all those that come up against me, the little black magic circles and their chants and their death matches, everything else they come up with against me, she's just burning their houses down. So if you're going to come up against me, you're going to lose your house. You're just going to burn it down. No mercy. No grace. Just burn. That's what He's doing. He's burning the houses down of the witches who come against me. And He's not going to take a whole lot more from His people either. Because they either choose to wake up or they're going to choose judgment. People want to call themselves His, and they want to post their phony videos all over the internet. Well, they may just see His wrath sooner rather than later. I told you they're not of Him. They can't stand all that stuff. They had everybody in circles in a panic. Paris meetings yesterday. None of that's from the Father. Not one of them spoke from him. And he wants the ones who are listening to all that to see that, to realize that they don't hear from him. They're not speaking from him. You know, Satan has his people in place so that when they arrive, they turn into his cheerleaders and influence people to accept them as teachers and masters from heaven. And they'll lead them right into accepting the mark of the beast. They'll tell them that chip implant's not the mark of the beast. That's the biggest lie going right now. And I've been yelling about that. Arnold Murray on TV started that. From the horse's mouth himself, it most definitely is a chip implant. But the wolves are telling the sheep, no, it's not a chip implant. Don't be worried about it. And if you folks don't start using discernment, you're going to be led straight to hell. Mark the wolves and don't listen to them. I actually had a word with the Father. We were talking about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was propped up as a rich man for the elite. It was his job to build them lavish and luxurious hotels, vacation spots to go to. And most of these elite charge it to the taxpayers, because many of Satan's people use black cards. And these black cards are given to them to spend as they like. And these black cards have as high as $1 million on them. I actually have a receipt someone sent me from an ATM machine. His balance, he took $300 out of his account. His balance was like $999,700. A $1 million black card. And if you're worshiping Satan and you're going to rituals, they bribe you with these black cards. Join us. It's bait. People join just for $1 million black card. But these black cards have a catch. Tick them off, you lose it. Don't do what you're supposed to do, you lose it. And they do the same thing with celebrities, CEOs, anybody with money. Many of them don't even have control of their own bank accounts. They're just given black cards to appease them. And that's how they keep them under their control. You know, the Arabs, and I've talked about this before, when George Bush Sr. was in office, he gave the Arabs printing presses of the American dollar so they could just print off all the money they wanted. And they print it off on luxurious garbage that won't save them, because they all get soul scalped and replaced by lizards. And it's these lizards that replace them that want to live the high life on Earth. And so they arrange to take control of all these humans. And then they watch and wait for the right time, and when they get access, and then they soul scalp these humans. You know, right now Obama's faced with much uncertainty, and it scares him. He's lost his power. He's no longer important. And it's a hard fall to obscurity. He's going to find that out. He already is. He already is. See, for 8 years, he took advantage of it. He just took advantage of it. Now he's looking back and he's thinking, wow, I really am going to miss this. You know, they're all hanging on to have some kind of relevance. They all want some importance of some kind. And Trump's going to have his hands full if he doesn't suppress them. Because you can't work alongside them because they're parasites. You can't ignore them. You have to deal with them harshly and suppress them. Otherwise, they're going to run over him. They'll have no peace. They'll always be looking for the jugular in his neck, and they'll never stop. if he doesn't wipe them out completely, he's always going to be looking over his shoulder. And he's not going to have peace for 4 years, possibly longer. But seriously, that's theoretics. Because the way I'm looking at it now, if we jump ahead to 2018 on Lucifer's timeline, in September of 2018, the mark of the beast begins to be enforced. And that's when a lot of wrath on this country will begin. Now, you could think, oh, 2018, well, that's almost, wow, a whole year, 9 months away from where we are today. They could move this up to 2017. They could move it up and start the chip enforcement now. Because that's what he's waiting for. That's all they want. People think they want a temple in Jerusalem, or that they want a world peace, or they want to establish the UN as more of a global peace body instead of a warmongering body. That they want to bring in all these Ashtar, which are nothing but fallen angels or Lilith kids. Bring them in as plain gods. The end starts when they arrive, folks. The end starts when they arrive. You know, I was looking over my notes when I wrote the book Interview with the Devil. And some of the comments from Lucifer during this interview. And I asked him to explain his strategy because I wanted people to see how this guy operates. You know, the interview wasn't about me and brilliant questions I could ask or how intelligent or dignified I could be or, you know, none of that. All that was thrown out the window. I wanted people, the one thing I wanted them to see was exactly how he does things and what he thinks of them. Because I wanted that to scream louder off the pages than anything else. I didn't write this book for the Lord's people, per se. I wrote it for Satan's. Because I want Satan's people to see what he thinks of them. See it in hard writing. And I think when you read this book, that's the one thing that comes through. It's his own mockery and disdain for even those who serve and worship him. Because that's how he is. He's not faking how he is. What you see in black and white is exactly how he is. Nothing new under the sun. Everything they're doing today, they did back in their rebellion against the Father. When he left his position as Father's Son in the kingdom of God and began a rebellion in heaven. Everything he did then, he's redoing now on earth. You know, I was talking to the Father about different aspects of the time back then. And he told me that many creatures are being stockpiled in various locations underground. And so this has been going on for a long time. This is what CERN does. And they have more than one CERN. Hadron Collider. It's just the one in Switzerland is the one everybody knows about. They have a mini one in the United States. They have one in China. They probably have one in Russia. They have them everywhere. And they use them to open up portals and gateways. And then what they do is they pull in creatures through these gateways. Montauk's another one that comes to mind because they do that all the time. They pull in creatures. And they stuff them away. Because what they want to do, what they're going to do, is exactly what Lucifer did before. when he starts the implementation of joining his kingdom on earth with the mark of the beast, and they'll hide it. They'll tell you it's in regards to money, to monetary reformed economics. You have to have the chip. That is when he'll release the creatures. And this is what terrifies the elite. This is why the elite want off Earth. Heck, they were going down to the Antarctica, trying to find rides and get through the Stargate in the Antarctica to get off of Earth. Because they know what's coming. They know these creatures that are coming. And it terrifies them. You know, it's not about escaping prosecution, or they could just go to a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States. They could just go hide in one of those countries. Heck, they have the money. They could form their own country out of an already existing country. It's not about that. What it's about is escaping the destruction that's coming to Earth and escaping the creatures that are coming. Because I'll tell you what, it's pretty much over at that point. Which is why I'm telling you, this temple and all this other stuff, they don't care about. Satan doesn't. He wants to have his candle snuffing time. And his candle snuffing time is to go after all the Christians who were left behind. You know, there's three different groups that are leaving Earth that are going to be raptured, and then there's groups that are protected on Earth. And if you're not hidden away, you're one of the bride that gets left behind and refined in a FEMA camp. And then you're going to die for your faith. You're going to receive a martyr's crown, but you're going to end up having to die for your faith to prove your loyalty to the Most High. And that's all Satan wants. He wants to see Christians die. He calls it candle snuffing time. He wants to get rid of all the light in the world. And most of that light is in America. You've still got light in some of the other nations. It won't take them much. Canada, Australia, Europe, some European nations. Scattered around the world, you've got some light. The biggest handful will be America. And that's what he wants. That's what he's salivating for. Because he's a hunter. He loves to hunt. And he loves the resistance of the prey. That's what he likes. And he calls it candle snuffing time. And after that's over, and probably even before it's over, when he releases the creatures, it's going to be pure chaos and hell on Earth. Pure chaos and hell. Literally. And he plans on running and hiding while all this is unleashed on the world. So he's not going to be here setting up any kind of global government. He's not going to be here trying to turn anarchy into democracy. It's going to be complete anarchy everywhere. Everywhere, in the entire world. Societies are going to break down. Everything normal is going to completely break down. People are going to be running and hiding from these creatures. You know, it's going to look like times back in the time of the ancients, when they all had to have caves to run in and hide, and they had to have underground bunkers to go hide in, because these creatures were running amok. You know, back in the day, Lucifer had these huge dinosaur things, and they used to roam the earth. And you know what? That's why they had the early civilizations would have walls around them. It wasn't to keep their enemies out. It was to keep the dinosaurs out. It was to keep the creatures out that were roaming the earth. When the Father replenished earth, and you'll notice in Genesis chapter 1, he replenished the earth. Because it already existed before. It was plenished once before. Then it was destroyed. Now it was being replenished. But you'll notice in the Garden of Eden, when he established the Garden of Eden, that it was fortified and guarded by the angels. Why was it fortified and guarded by the angels? Why did it need to be? If they were the only ones on Earth, and the animals that had been created weren't in a fallen state, they probably spoke. Well, nobody killing nobody. So why was the protection needed? Because there was stuff still on this earth at that time that carried over from the previous civilization that had dominated Earth. And Lucifer had always been trying to create his own human. So you have these like Neanderthals running around. That's where you get all those, the Neanderthal man and all those cave prehistoric men. There was no evolution. You don't start from nothing and get a soul. Are you crazy? Are you kidding me? How do you get a human soul evolved from an ape who has no soul? It was the one thing Lucifer could never duplicate. He could create all the fake-looking human-type monsters, Frankensteins. He wanted to, because he's doing that today. They're called clones and robotoids, androids, Frankensteins. They're humans without souls. Because the one thing he could never duplicate was the Father's breath, that the Father breathed into the nostrils of Adam, and Adam became a living soul from Father's breath. It's not something you can accomplish with DNA or neuroscience or brain science or cardio science or blood science. It was breath from the Father he breathed into Adam. Adam became a living soul. Lucifer can't duplicate that. All he can get is Frankenstein. And that's what we have amongst us today. The tares mixing in with the humans, the wheat. You know, years ago, you used to look at that verse. You used to think, oh, the tares are just the unsaved people. The unsaved people. That was the thinking back when I was a child. I mean, I've been studying prophecy since I was 12 years old. I've read the Bible front to back hundreds of times, some books thousands of times. That's why I ever stop and ask people who want to fight against me and hate on me, how many times have you read the Bible front to back? How many times have you read the New Testament from Matthew to Revelation? Yeah, it seems like a schizophrenic book, don't it? Two different people, two different messiahs being presented, don't you think? And they just look at you like you're being blasphemous. I never read it. I never read it. They don't know. They just want to act like they know something. They don't know nothing. There's a difference between head knowledge and heart knowledge. Head knowledge can only get you so far. It's the heart knowledge that the Father gives you. That is true knowledge. True knowledge. Heart knowledge. But these creatures back in the day, they always existed. In my interview with Lila, she talks about it a little bit. I was asking her about that so people could get a view of what it was like for her in the Garden of Eden. What it was like for her back in the day. You know, the Father wanted these truths revealed to the people, to the world. He wants them to have the truth that Lucifer has suppressed all these thousands of years. A lot of this information was well known back in the day. Very well known. But over the years, Satan eliminates information. He narrates things to the small pictures. He wants you to have a certain particular picture of your past. And that's why they control all the school's textbooks. They always control information. And you know what's crazy? It's all these fallen angels all over the universe. And under the years, look at what he's done to humans and their history on us, because they know what he's done. They've been here as long as almost he has. They know he hides and lies about stuff to keep the humans keep the humans and the cattle along a certain route of narratives. Don't they realize he did the same thing to them? Most of them don't even know who he is. They don't even know. If you told any of them that Lucifer was a prince in heaven, that he was the son of God, and that's why he has the authority and the rank and the status to rule over them because of who he was in heaven, they don't know who he was. They don't know he used to be a son of God and was kicked out of heaven for his rebellion and war against the Father, the King. They have no idea who Lucifer is. They're all given these false histories, especially when they create a race. Because, see, Lucifer knows one thing, and he knows that any race, any nation, any group of beings, they need roots. They need roots. And so they create the narratives for them. They give them roots. They give them heroes. They give them tragedies. They give them love stories. They goad them along in a false history so that they truly never know who they really are. And he does that to everybody, folks. Everybody. Because there's a lot more to this universe, our universe, than just Earth, planet Earth. And you had the Watchers who fell, and you had Lucifers who fell from heaven with them. They weren't all judged and cast into hell. Some of them were. The leaders were. But unlike the first rebellion, Lucifer and his leaders, most of them were kept together. And it was a lot of the angels, a bulk of the angels who fell. His kids, his wives, he was raping angels left and right, the same thing that the Watchers had done when they came to Earth. Revelation chapter 6 talks about the sons of God coming to Earth and procreating with human women. They weren't taking them on dates and marrying them. They took who they wanted. They would grab women and rape them, impregnate them. They weren't gentlemen. By the time of the flood, most of the population on Earth was giants, the offspring. They were hybrids. They were called Nephilim. 1.6 billion beings on this earth at the time of the flood. And all wiped out, but Noah, his 3 sons, their wives, and Noah's wife. Can you imagine? Out of 1.6 billion people, less than 10 survived. Yeah, it's coming in our day. We're not going to have another flood. Because the second time around, this world's destroyed by fire. The first time it was judged and destroyed by water. Now it's going to be destroyed by fire. One of the biggest truths ever kept hidden away from the people in our centuries, it was well known about in the early centuries, but hidden and suppressed for the latter ones that were to come, was that Lucifer and Yahushua at one time were brothers. Christians scream because it makes the Mormons look like they were right, and that pisses them off more than just having the truth itself. The Mormons are right. Father's always said, truth is everywhere in pieces. Everybody has a bit of the truth. Nobody has the whole truth. Lucifer probably gave the Mormons that information just to get them started as their own cult, because Mormonism is just another branch of Satanism. As far as the Satanists are concerned, Mormonism and Catholicism and Pentecostalism are all branches of Satanism. Pentecostalism, speaking in tongues, was started by ancient Illuminati families in Kentucky. That's how they got their roots. I was talking to Cisco Wheeler, who was from an Illuminati family. She wrote a book on it. She revealed the whole lid on Pentecostal religion. Lucifer wasn't his real name. Well, that was his name on earth. His heavenly name was Haliel. Yeshua's real name was not Jesus. It was never, ever Jesus. Jesus is what Shakespeare gave him in 1560s, 1600s. He never had the name of Jesus. For 1,600 years, he never had the name of Jesus. The Roman Catholic Church gave him the name of Jesus. How special, His real name is Yahushua ben David. That's not that difficult to say. People should learn his real name. Haliel Yasha. His name was Yasha in heaven. Shua means salvation. There was no need for salvation in heaven. His name was Yasha. They were brothers. Haliel, which means praise to the king, because he was brilliant in music. Brilliant. He was jealous. He was the prodigal son mentioned in the Bible. He was the prodigal son. He left his home, left his estate, started a war. But the father not only had just 2 sons, he had 12 daughters. He had 12 daughters. 14 kids. Now he does everything by numbers, folks. How many tribes of Israel are there? 14. We have 12 tribes plus the 2 tribes that were adopted, Manasseh and Ephraim, Joseph's kids. Does everything by numbers. And when Haliel was excommunicated from heaven, brought the father's children down to 13. How many apostles were there? 12. 13 total with Yeshua. That's why it's such a popular number among the occultists today with 13. Covens are 13. People have regarded it as either a lucky number 13 or a bad omen number 13, depending on light or darkness or how superstitious you are, which really has no effect on believers of the Most High. But all this information is coming back to light. It's not like it's coming out for the first time. It's just coming back out. It's being rejuvenated because it was already out there to begin with. Satan suppressed it. He has suppressed it. You know, one of the things the Pope mentioned weeks ago was the fact that they had all these books in the vault in the Vatican. Really? I've heard about them. I've heard about them. I heard about them straight from the horse's mouths because what they used to do was take a lot of these kids, Illuminati family kids, to the Vatican, and they would take them down to the vault because they would tell them, they would browbeat them, so to speak, into how false and what a whole lie religion was. Because they had the real books in the vault in the Vatican, and the sheeple were all just believing fake books and false books that were put together. In my conversation with Lucifer, I revealed his thoughts on the KJV. And he says, there's enough in there to condemn you if you don't believe it at all, because even the Father wouldn't let him change the core message of his people. See, at that time there wasn't a KJV, folks. They had the Torah. The Torah. And then they had, as centuries went on, they got scrolls. Peter, James, John, Matthew, all ignored and pushed aside for Paul's, because he was the Satan of the Bible, just as Lucifer was the Satan of the Garden of Eden. Paul was the Satan of the KJV. People don't get it. So why would the Lord let Paul be a Satan in the KJV, in the Bible? Why would he let Lucifer in the Garden of Eden? It always comes down to one thing and the same thing, to test mankind. He was testing Adam and Eve. today it tests people. Do they have head knowledge or heart knowledge? Do they seek the Father for the truth in all things and go to Him as the door? Or do they just blindly accept what their pastors who graduated from Satan seminaries, who go on to join the Masons, how they interpret? And they all always use Paul. All you do is hear him preach from Paul. You can't go into a church on Sundays and not hear about Paul. They worship at the feet of Paul. You get to the point where you're like, shut up. Just tell me what the Father said. Just give me the words of Jesus. And they have pictures of Sananda in the churches. It's not Jesus. Michelangelo painted a portrait of Sananda, gave it to the churches, and they accepted it as Jesus. So you go to all these churches today, and they've got Satan hanging up in them, Sananda. Sananda's the fake Jesus that's coming. I battle with him constantly. People don't understand the battles or why I go through them. It's because of who I am and the rank I have on earth. I know all these beings. I know Sananda, I know Maitreya, I know Mary and Lilith. Eve, I should say. Not Mary. She goes by Mary. That's how they got the Catholics so deceived. Because Eve left Adam. She joined up with Lucifer, never repented, stayed with Lucifer, and has worked in the background to deceive people as Mary all these thousands of years. Well, before she was always somebody else. She always plays that light, the deceptive light, where Lilith always just plays the evil one, the outright evil. Evil plays the deceptive. People don't know how, if Eve died, how'd she get out of hell? There was no hell. Come on. Eve was probably, what, one of the first to die on earth? She was one of the first created. There was no hell. It was a realm of the dead. And you know what Lucifer did? He went down and got her and took her out. It wasn't that hard. After he did that, then hell was sealed up. The realm of the dead was sealed up. So he couldn't go back down there and get anybody else out. But from that point on, Eve was done with him. And hell itself has evolved over the centuries. There was no fire kindled in hell until Korah and his followers were rebelling against Moses at Mount Sinai. If you read the story of Korah, the earth split in half. Father split the earth in half, and Korah and his followers were eaten, swallowed up by the earth, cast down into hell. And then it was lit with a flame. It was the first time there was ever fire in hell. Up until that point, it had always just been a realm of the dead. And now you read of hellfire, and how hell expands. Whenever I see lava from a volcano eruption or something, it's crazy, because that's what the lake of fire looks like. It looks like these huge waves of lava, you know. And it's a literal lake. It's just a literal lake. And there's people. And guess what they're not doing? They're not having fun. They're not having fun. People can laugh all they want to, but when I was released and I went to talk to Joan Rivers, she was in a coma. And see, when you're in a coma, your body's in a stasis. She was in hell. And there's these mountain cliffs. And the lake kind of beats up against them. There's no beaches, but there's mountains. And she was up above on a ledge on one of these hills, these mountains that overlooks the lake of fire. And they had her attached to a rope, like a bungee cord type thing. And they were swinging her out. They would have her stand on the ledge, and they would push her out over the lake of fire. And then she would swing back, and they'd stop her. And then they'd push her back out again. And they kept doing that over and over and over again. Because she was in a coma. They were just waiting for her to die. And the second she died, they would have cut the bungee cord and just let her flop into the lake of fire. It would have been it. And that's when the Father let me intervene. Let me talk to her. He doesn't have me intervene and talk to a lot of people who have made the wrong decisions and choices. But there are some people that have something redeeming that they've done in their lives where he'll give them a second chance like he did with Joan Rivers. Oh, and you better believe she took it. And the last thing she said to me was, hey, I like your connections. I have her story on my website, SherryShriner.com, when I talked to Joan Rivers. If it's not at SherryShriner.com, it would be at TheWatcherFiles.com. Even Lucifer was shocked at that one. We would talk about it a little bit in my book, Interview with the Devil, because I grabbed her out of his hand. She was always one of his. And he was mad that I was able to grab her out of his hands. She's in heaven this day. And there's other celebrities in heaven. The real Jim Carrey's in heaven. The real Miley Cyrus is in heaven. The real Hillary Clinton is in heaven. Some of you are going to freak out over that one. I get busy. I'm busy in the background, you know. The Father lets me talk, and especially to the kids. Miley had a real love for the Lord. She loved the Lord. She wrote an album about him. Most of them think it was love songs that she was talking about a boyfriend, or she didn't have any boyfriends. She loved the Lord. They were all about the Lord. And she didn't want anything else to do with the Illuminati. She just was done with it. She was like 12 years old at the time. I think they let her live till she was like 14 or 15. Maybe 16, and then they killed her. And they brought in this Lauren girl who plays Miley now, and I think she's a tranny. She's not the real one. In 2012, about 500 celebrities, politicians, and anybody that was who's who disappeared off the earth. And they were able to hide it and cover it up so that nobody even knew. I think there was 5,000 altogether. There was a lot of Navy SEAL troops, a lot of military special forces. That's when the real Obama and the real Hillary were killed. Barry was killed. They tried to come up against me. The Father took care of them. We took them into the fifth dimension onto a planet. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll write about it. People can't handle the basic stuff. They can't handle the basics. They can't even count to 12. How are you going to handle any higher knowledge? You think the Lord's going to take you higher and higher in your knowledge when you can't grasp the basics that He leads for you to grasp? You know, everything is a test. And you're never going to get any further in your testing and in your knowledge when you're always trying to tell Him what's truth and what isn't. You don't ask Him for the truth and tell Him, no, that's not true. Really? Guess what? You're not going any higher. You just failed. You don't tell Him what the truth is and isn't. You're just not ready to accept things, and then you just stay where you're at. And you'll stay there until you get ready to be moved up, and that's all up to you. Learn how to count to 12. That's a good start. There were 12 apostles. There's 12 apostles' names on the 12 gates of the New Jerusalem. It's not 13. There's 12. Matthias replaced Judas, not Paul. There was 12 apostles. Simple mathematics. A lot of history that's been hidden. Search it out, folks. Search it out. You know, I told you there was more going on. in the early ages than just a group of people wandering around a desert in tents. Back in the time of Moses' exodus from Egypt to Israel, the Israelites were migrating everywhere. They were in Europe, Russia, America. They were everywhere. Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. You don't discover something that's already been inhabited. The ancient Israelites discovered America because they were the ones who came over the top to America. They migrated out. And people today call them the Lost 10 Tribes of Israel. A lot of the native branches, a lot of native Indians in America, like the Cherokees, are actually from Israel. The roots are from Israel. And you have the ones from South America and Atlantis, the Atlantean offspring. That's how you have such bad, cultic brotherhood of the snake worship in South America, because a lot of those original tribes were offspring of the Atlanteans. Atlantis is right at the top of South America and Cuba there. Atlantic Ocean. And a lot of those tribes crawled up through the Americas, and that's where you get the more violent Sioux and some of these other Indian tribes that were very violent. I was from them, the Atlantis offspring. And you have the Israelites, who are more peace-loving kind of people, gardeners, planters, things like that. Huge difference in the tribes that inhabited America. And there were giants, always giants. Giants are coming back. They've been in stasis. They've had them in a coma. And I'm not talking anybody in particular, but maybe Lucifer and his people. You know, I heard a story years ago about giants being trucked in 18-wheelers down at the base in North Carolina. And so Oregon warriors went down and started plastering it with Oregon. But they have these bases made everywhere all over the world to hide these giants in, so that when it's time, when it's release time, pure havoc is on the world, because that's Lucifer's big plan. He wants the big surprise, the big shock, because that's what he did before. Throw it all out there all at once and shock everybody, because that's what he did to heaven. He shocked everybody. Because you can't imagine, you can't even grasp the levels of evil and wickedness these beings can go to. Our minds don't go there, folks. We just don't. We don't sit and plot how wicked and evil we could be towards somebody else or something else. That's just not how we're made. The only safe place is in the arms of the Father. Is to be under the wings, in the shadow of the wings. To be in His care. And the only way to know that you're going to be in His care is to have heart knowledge of Him and not just head knowledge. Heart knowledge, folks. A relationship with the Father. Set aside your religions and work on your relationships. Ask Him to teach you the truth in all things. Ask Him to teach you how to hear Him. And that's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you have the heart to seek Him and want to hear Him and the ways He works, He will lead you. But it starts with seeking Him. Anyway, folks, be back next week. Inauguration will be over, and we warriors can start to have some real fun on this earth, battling back our enemies. Until next week, everybody. God bless.